Hi, my name is Holly, and I like to read. I recently hit my Goodreads goal this year, and it's only September, so I thought I would make a video on all the books that I've read this year so far. I have all my notes written down about the books that I read. I do want to say that a lot of the reason that I did hit this goal is because of Sarah J. Maas and her series. I got really into fantasy this year. I hated fantasy before I got into her series. Actually, no, that's a lie. I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros last year, and that introduced me to the fantasy realm, and then I jumped into ACOTAR. First, at the beginning of this year, I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This book, I had heard so many great things about it. It was definitely like a TikTok book, a book talk book. And when I read it, or no, I listened to it. I don't know if that made it worse, but I feel like there was no storyline per se. A lot of drama, unnecessary drama, and I don't know, it was a little over dramatic. It would be like they were fighting and then they were having sex, and then they were fighting and then they were having sex again. It was a very spicy book, and I understand that if you like spice, that kind of book is for you, but it wasn't for me. Next up is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I loved this book. It did take me 3 or 4 tries of starting the book from the very beginning. I probably read the first couple of chapters. I read it, listened to it, like 4 times before I actually kept on going until this last January. And I loved it. I really didn't think I was gonna like this fantasy book. It was slow at times, and so sometimes I was like, oh my gosh, can we just get to the like good part of the plot? But I loved it. I gave Icebreaker a 3 out of 5. And I gave A Court of Thorns and Roses a 4 out of 5. And I immediately jumped into A Court of Mist and Fury. Initially, I gave it a 5-star, but later on, I read the Throne of Glass series, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and I bumped it down to a 4-star because that series like changed my brain. My baby is playing back there. So overall, I gave A Court of Mist and Fury a 4 out of 5. A Court of Wings and Ruin, 5 out of 5. It was probably my favorite ACOTAR book. I love Feyre and Rhysand, and I also am in love with Cassian. Like, obsessed with that man. After that, I kind of needed a break, so I read Never Lie by Frida McFadden, and oh my gosh, this book was crazy. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I probably stayed up to like 3 in the morning reading this book. It was so good. I rated Never Lie a 4 out of 5. A Court of Frost and Starlight. It was good. It wasn't my favorite. I really struggle to like Nesta, and this book didn't help, and then it made me not as excited to read A Court of Silver Flames because I knew it was going to be just about Nesta. And she was so mean to Cassian. It made me so sad. Court of Frost and Starlight, I gave a 3 out of 5. It was kind of like when you were little and you're watching Disney Channel and there's like a Christmas episode. That's what it reminded me of. It was cute, but it wasn't what I would have chose per se. Last but not least in the ACOTAR series, A Court of Silver Flames. I don't like Nesta, so this book was really hard for me to read. I feel like the whole time she's like, boo-hoo me, like my life is so hard. Also, I didn't like that like all this sudden Rhysand was hiding things from Feyre when I thought they had kind of gotten over that, and then all of a sudden he was hiding like life-threatening news. Nesta is so hard to understand because she's so like, oh, I'm gonna be all tough and fun, and then she's like, oh, I literally want to make your life miserable, like, and there's no in between. So I give that a 2 out of 5. It was a good book and I like the plot. I just am not a huge fan of Nesta. I probably read those first 7 books I listened to the ACOTAR series, but I probably read and listened to the first 7 books within 3 months. Like, I was obsessed with ACOTAR. Maybe 4. After the ACOTAR series, I read Throne of Glass, of course. Holy crap, this series changed everything for me. I gave the first Throne of Glass book a 4 out of 5. It was hard for me to go from Feyre to Aelin or Selena in a different book. And then Crown of Midnight, 5 out of 5. I loved that book so much. It just made me want to read more of the series. And then I read Assassin's Blade 3rd. It wasn't my favorite. It was kind of like, okay, I understand like why we need it for world building and character development for Selena or Aelin or whatever. But it wasn't my favorite, except I did love Sam's story. Oh my gosh. It like made me fall in love with Sam so fast and then like tore him away. And I remember just being like, what? An Heir of Fire, I give a 4 out of 5. That one felt a little slow at times, but I still really loved it. Queen of Shadows, I gave a 5 out of 5. It was probably my favorite book in the Throne of Glass series. So much development, I loved it. And then Empire of Storms. Kind of struggle with Empire of Storms because so much happened that we didn't get to hear or see about. I did like that Chaol wasn't in this book at all. I hate Chaol. I am not a fan of Chaol or Nezrin. They just kind of give me the ick. Chaol bothers me because he was so back and forth and kind of controlling, and I'm like, oh, what you gonna do? He would get all but hurt when she wouldn't tell him about her plans, and I mean, all the males did, but like, I feel like Chaol would take it way personally. Not only was all the other characters left out in the book when Aelin would like pull stuff out of nowhere and be like, well, I called these people to come help, I called these people to come help, I called these people to come help, and it was just like, what? Like, it made sense because of Assassin's Blade, but at the same time I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. And I think that's what Sarah J Maas wanted, and then it made me want to be like, well, I want to read more, of course. I skipped Tower of Dawn. I'm horrible. I skipped it. I watched like 10 YouTube videos being like, here's what happened. So I kind of got the gist of it, but I did not want to read it. I cannot handle Chaol. Last but not least in the Throne of Glass series is Kingdom of Ash. I loved this book. I loved how Aelin was broken down and then she found herself again, and it was like, I'm gonna redeem myself. I feel like the ending was not what I was expecting. I did love the ACOTAR reference. I thought there was gonna be more for some reason. Like, that's it, just Rhysand raising his hand with pregnant Feyre, whatever. After I read the Throne of Glass series, I honestly was like, I don't know if I can get into Crescent City right away. I just need a break from Sarah J Maas. So I read The Summer Girl. It was so cute. I like had to decompress. It was a good book to decompress with. And then I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Okay. Holy crap, that book kept me on the edge of my seat even more than Neverlie did. It was so like, oh my gosh, his wife is crazy, his wife is crazy, his wife is crazy. I can't believe she's doing this. Why does she act this way? And then all of a sudden it was like, holy crap, the husband's crazy. Like, wait a minute, this all makes sense. And she just like really thought out her book so well. It was so good. But then I read The Housemaid's Secret. I gave this a 3 out of 5 because I felt like it was just really repetitive of The Housemaid. I wanted like a different storyline, and I don't feel like I got that. The last 3 books that I read were the Crescent City books. I gave the first one a 5 out of 5. I didn't think it would beat Throne of Glass. I love Bryce, and I love the whole Danica thing. The character building and development in these 3 books was amazing. House of Earth and Blood, the second Crescent City book, I gave a 4 out of 5. I don't know, it was so good. House of Sky and Breath. My first note was, but why Nesta? As I said before, I'm not a huge fan of Nesta, so I was kind of like, why can't we get Elaine, or why can't we get Feyre, or like, I don't know, I was just a little annoyed. I like that it was like a total different perspective of like, this random girl from a random world is in Velaris, figuring out these secrets with these 2 strangers, but these 2 strangers are like, I feel like I know them, or I read about them. And it's just so weird to see an outside perspective again that's other than Feyre's, if that makes sense, or other than Nesta's. Like, the last one was also a 5 out of 5. I definitely think my favorite Sarah J Maas series was Throne of Glass, and then Crescent City, and then ACOTAR. Thanks for watching my very first YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed it.